Hello, Timon. It's great to see you. How are you?
Hey, Dan. Good to see you too.
So, it's my pleasure to join you today. And, I was hoping that we could talk about this current moment in the travel industry, this moment in human history, and what the sort of experiences are that people have at the moment and where the opportunities might lie for the future. It's clear that we've got a sort of a notable marked change in the industry. Global travel is nearly paralysed, and we've seen this drop in travel impact both the business world and the conference circuit and the events that we'd normally take part in. But also in terms of leisure travel, it doesn't look much better either. Now, I know that you've worked for some time in the travel industry and you keep a close eye on the trends. Is there any fundamental change that we expect around the corner, or are we approaching a new normal of sorts? How do you see this?
Well, it sounds trivial, but if travel becomes less ordinary, less accessible, it becomes more valuable by nature. If traveling implies a more careful decision-making, kind of a process of inner negotiation, balancing risks and gains, our expectations as travelers are higher once a decision is made. And this is especially true for the frequent business traveler who used to travel every week or every other week and who now has been on hold for a year. As soon as these people, and you are one of them, do their first trips again, they will make sure that the actual purpose of the trip is kind of embedded in a sound travel chain and in a great overall experience. And as travel becomes something more selective, more exclusive, the journey itself, the travel time or the time of transit will gain in appreciation as well. So the time one spends on board of a plane or of a train or of a car is not just a necessity to get from A to B, but it's an increasingly important factor to make a trip worthwhile. So travel time is expected to be enjoyable, rewarding, and productive. And I think we will see this trend continue in a post-pandemic travel market.
Okay, so my question now is, how does this affect the way that the travel industry responds? How does the travel industry make sure that it integrates these trends and these demands from the traveller? I certainly can identify with this. My own experiences taking a large number of flights and journeys a year. I often felt that the events just needed to be sort of attended because that was the done thing. But certainly, there's more focus now on the purpose of the trip and making sure that it's really warranted. But then once, sort of we've decided to take the trip, then I totally can understand and identify with those points that the experience is all important. How does the travel industry incorporate this demand for the right experience on the journey?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's the right question. How does the travel industry respond or prepare for this changing, this shift in priorities? So I think the fact is that people will pay more attention to detail when they travel. They will expect better service and more duty of care from their travel suppliers. And at the same time, many people will be willing to spend more money and to invest more time in comparing options, in arranging their trips. So in exchange, they will expect more quality and better service.
Okay, so this is making sense from the traveller's point of view, whether it's business travel or leisure travel. How can we be sure that the industry is going to make these adaptations, and how can we make the right selection?
Well, I'm not sure exactly, but at least you can look at at reports and forecasts and projections, and they all point towards a rather slowly recovering number in travel bookings over the coming years. But and especially in the price-sensitive mass market, it's rather getting slice-wise, the recovery. But many factors indicate an increasing ticket size for travel suppliers, especially in the upper end segments of travel. In a recent study, for example, published by Tourism Economics, the authors analyzed trends in the luxury travel market and clustered a few remarkable traveler profiles. They called them traveler tribes. And one of these tribes they defined as the special occasion tribe. They are award hunters who see luxury as a treat, not as a given. They seek for wow factors, for authentic or indulged experiences they would not normally be accustomed to. For example, a higher tier of cabin class or a hotel room. They like being surprised. And what is remarkable here is that the line in between leisure and business travel is getting more and more blurry. The different traveler tribes these authors describe are not traditionally split by travel purpose, be it leisure or business, but instead by their personal relation to travel as such. So in the top end segment, it's less about the travel purpose, but more about what individual travelers expect as a rewarding experience from travel. And also in business travel, the rewarding character of a trip itself is a factor that the big travel agencies and travel management companies have identified as an increasingly important factor in business travel. And I think this shift can be leveraged by travel suppliers, especially in the upper end segment.
Makes sense. I mean, I can see myself in a couple of different tribes possibly there. With Rockvin, you're targeting the luxury market and the upper end of the business travel market, I believe. Where do you see priority shift in view of the target segments? How's that going to evolve?
So essentially, we see three main areas where to create new value for the demanding traveler of tomorrow. First, there will be increased attention paid to quality service and even sharper separation of, approved quality products from low-cost services. Secondly, there will be a shift towards personalization of services and increasing room to customize travel products. So travel technology will not only serve to automate processes, but it will be increasingly leveraged to shape and streamline the individual travel experience. Mm-hmm. And third, there will be a new focus on safety and security in almost every aspect of travel. So the assessment and the mitigation of travel risks will play a much stronger and a more explicit role in travel supply.
Well, that certainly makes sense at a time that everyone's very aware of personal and collective risks. What about planetary or environmental risks? How does sustainability fit into this picture?
Absolutely, yeah, it does. I mean, it's becoming a vital requirement for travel suppliers. Especially in business travel, suppliers will be expected to comply with standards of corporate social responsibility, to invest into sustainability, and at the end to seriously make up for their carbon footprints. But I would almost consider this a hygiene factor, that companies will have no choice but to make it a priority.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that we can see those trends across the industries at the moment. And, if you don't tick those boxes, then there's some serious questions about values and mission and so on. So what does this mean for travel suppliers? How can they prepare for these changes or these developments?
I think that some travel suppliers now have the chance to rethink their customer journey and to enhance their value proposition in order to come back strong. And if I understood my customers' needs and motivations before the pandemic, I have kind of a privileged position now to anticipate how their priorities may shift now. And I can use this moment of reset to develop a better experience, a different service, or even a completely new product. That's the way I would approach it, yes.
Okay, so can you give us an example of how does that work?
Sure. Let's look at you for a second. You are an executive of a mid-sized tech company. You were in plain process of international expansion before the pandemic hit. And I'm sure over the past year, you have been accumulating a notable travel backlog.
Yeah, we did quite a lot of journeys. That's true.
So once the situation now allows you to have those meetings in person that you have been postponing for so long, you want to leverage each of these trips to maximum extent. And I mean in both ways, not just achieving your business goals, of course, but also enjoying these trips. So you rely on a sharp travel arrangement, but actually you expect a bit more than just careful planning. Some aspects that you didn't pay attention to in the past may have become critical factors for your, for your travel, for your decision making today. Isn't that true?
Yeah, I think that is true. I mean, I was always quite conscious of maximizing my journeys in any way I could. So meeting multiple customers, if that was the objective, but also to make sure that I got a sense of experience from the place that I was visiting, and met real people from these places, and got a personal sort of enrichment from it as well. I think this is obviously more so the case when travel becomes, and I agree with you, that it's more valuable, or it's more something to be more careful and conscious of when making those selections. How would, for example, chauffeured ground transportation provide me with some new value here?
Yes, that's obviously the right question when you look at Rockvin. And let me give you a few examples. So now let's look at you. Post-pandemic, travel happens again. You can plan trips, you can do your meetings that you have been postponing for a long time. Now you may want to minimize unnecessary contacts, for example. Full planes, queues at boarding, waiting lines for taxis or for car rental, any kind of crowd would expose you to a higher infection risks. And an infection, and even a regular cold would in a worst case lead to a quarantine and force you to cancel, and postpone following trips. And it would screw up your agenda. So you want to avoid that. So you will appreciate a private chauffeur service, a protected space for your first and last mile transportation. Stay out of the crowded mass places of public transport, and we would certainly appreciate hygiene standards for the few persons you interact with. That's one aspect, that people may pay more attention to. On the other side, imagine that for a few upcoming short haul trips, you just want to avoid overnights. Fly in, fly out, tight schedule, well managed. So you would appreciate a pre-arranged ground transportation service in between your meetings with a fully briefed driver. You would appreciate an intelligently managed travel chain without gaps, without waiting times, a driver who not only knows your agenda and your departure flight, but who is informed of any flight delay, someone who managed the lag times in between meetings in according with the traffic situation, and someone who tells you, for example, where to have lunch nearby if you suddenly have a 30 minutes gap. And by the way, somebody who drops you at the correct terminal, right?
Always useful, always useful.
All that plays a role. And also, again, back to the security topic, I think there will be a new sensitivity for your personal security, especially for frequent global travelers. And the risk levels have changed. Crime rates for robberies, assaults have gone up in many places. In some cities in the US, for example, carjacking assaults are skyrocketing. So the number of carjacking is skyrocketing, just because mask wearing makes it so much easier for these violent thefts to remain covered or hooded without causing any suspicion. So again, in this case, you would appreciate to go without car rental this time, right? But have a security trained driver instead, operated by a professional and certified company.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And a completely different example, but again, you were asking for chauffeured ground transportation and the value add this specific service may provide in the situation post-pandemic. Since you could not travel for a while, you want to extend potentially your business trips to enjoy the destination more than in the past, or with a dedicated approach, and say, I'm going to Paris. Let's have, let's make the best of this trip.
Add a few days on.
Exactly. Yeah. Add a few days on. So you would appreciate someone with local knowledge. Ideally, your chauffeur that managed your on-site transportation anyways could at the same time be a trained local expert who provides you with guidance, with individual recommendations, and gives you up-to-date information on how to best leverage your spare time on destination.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think probably as risk increases, the appreciation for that personal touch and for somebody who understands, your needs and wishes before the event actually supports lots of value opportunities, from the short period of time that you want to maximize. So I totally understand that. Now, I understand Rockvin is launching a new chauffeured ground transportation offering. When will this be released? When was this becoming live? And what do we need to do to get access to this?
We will first launch our service in selected markets in Q4 this year. That's our timeline.
Okay, so we're expecting it to arrive pretty soon then.
Exactly.
Well, fantastic, Timon. Thanks for the information and thanks for supporting us in the discussion today. And I look forward to watching this space and seeing the developments. But certainly, what you've been saying in terms of trends and opportunities, it does make sense. And I'm looking forward to getting on the road again and seeing the people that I'm dealing with every day. All around the world. It's a global business like yours, and we really do appreciate this personal touch. It's all about relationships and about managing that experience. And obviously, if I arrive in a fresh and happy state in my meetings, then this is the first step to making sure that was a successful trip. So thanks so much for this interview.
My pleasure, Dan. I certainly look forward to meeting you on the road as well. And thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Thanks so much. Yeah. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.